Alright, I wanted to make a 45-degree battery pattern on a flat face where the outline of the battery is extruded and the interior is cut through the face. I tried to use the Emboss tool, but I was left with a bit of an offset between the cut and the battery outline. I don't know exactly why, but I think it's because the Emboss tool is referencing slightly different origin points for each rotational operation. The solution for me was to use the Move tool, rotate the sketch 45 degrees, and then use the Extrude tool to perform the cut and the extrude of the battery. So let's run through making the wall, the frame, and the battery pattern. First, let's make the wall and frame. Using the Center Rectangle tool, create a 65 by 130 millimeter rectangle about the origin point. Then use the Offset tool to make a 2 millimeter frame within that shape. Extrude the wall 2 millimeters. Then extrude the frame by 4 millimeters as a new body. Rename the bodies to wall and frame in the browser, and then hide the frame body. Next, create a new sketch on the face of the wall for the battery pattern we're going to make. Use the Center Rectangle tool again to make the body of the battery. Make the rectangle about the origin, and I'm using dimensions of 9 by 15. Use the 2-point rectangle tool to make the battery terminal on the right side of the battery. Don't worry about centering the terminal at this point. Use dimensions of 4 millimeters by 1.5 millimeters. Use the midpoint constraint to center the battery terminal on the body of the battery. Then use the Offset tool and make a 2 millimeter offset from the battery's body. This will be for the hole we will eventually cut. Use the Fillet tool to round the corners of the battery. I'm using 1 millimeter for the body and 0.25 for the terminal corners. Alright, let me show you the issue I ran into with Emboss. With the Emboss tool, I rotated the inner sketch for the cut 45 degrees about the origin, and then selected Deboss as the effect for the cut through the wall. Again, using the Emboss tool, I rotated the outline of the battery shape and rotated 45 degrees about the origin with an emboss depth of 2 millimeters. Upon inspection, the emboss of the battery is not centered about the hole, even though both were rotated about their origin. This is more apparent using the section analysis tool. So let's back up in the timeline and use the Move tool in the Modify group. In the Move Copy dialog box, make sure Sketch Objects is selected for the Move object. Then select all the sketch features. For the move type, choose Rotate and then select the X-axis. You may need to turn on the view of the origin in the browser tree to the left. Finally, rotate the sketch 45 degrees. Use the Extrude tool to cut the hole for the battery. For the Extent type, I selected To Object, then rotated the view to click on the back of the wall. For the extrude operation, make sure Cut is selected. For the battery and battery terminal outline, use the Extrude tool again. Select the terminal and battery profiles and extrude them 2 millimeters. Looking more closely, the cut and extrude is centered and lined up nicely. Let's create the rest of the pattern on the face using the Rectangular Pattern tool. The pattern will be in two directions, one along the y-axis and another along a 45-degree line between the y and z-axis, which I forgot to draw. So let's go back and edit the battery sketch and add a 45-degree construction line from the origin. Back to the Rectangular Pattern tool, choose Features as the pattern type. Then in the timeline, select the two extrude options for the cut and the extrude. For the directions, choose the 45-degree line just added to the battery sketch, and then choose the y-axis. With a bit of trial and error, I settled on a quantity of 5 and a distance of 40 with the direction type set to symmetric. For the y-axis direction, I chose a quantity of 12, distance of 110, and finally selected a compute option as identical. For the outlying batteries beyond the wall body, go ahead and select them all in the browser on the left, then right-click and select Remove. For the batteries that overlap the wall, I'm going to use the Combine tool and use the frame as the tool body to cut away the excess battery outlines from the pattern. Then in the browser, use Remove in the right-click dialog. There we go. Hope this was helpful, and have a beautiful day.